So I got scaled up by the bots again. So keep trying to set it down, but it doesn't seem to work. So it's an army of me, a solo army of one. So we'll just have to take the L on this one. There we go. We have succumbed to more scaling up. I have one retry token. Alright, let's try this again. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Hopefully it won't be so evil. Else it's not going to behave. Alright, there we go. Not sure if I'll have another token by the time this is done, but we shall do our best and try, because that's all we can do. Alright, there we go. Back to the reading, which is why we're here. Alright, so we continue with the LOK, chapter 2, which I'd started, and unfortunately left you guys on a cliffhanger. The king, Agacelis, made it back. Hello, Scruffy, my crunching friend. So the king made it back to his palace, only to discover that while he was away at a peace treaty, trying. Hello, QuickDucks, how are you? You're my honey baby. Hello. His enemies, the purple aliens, had attacked at the peace summit and had also attacked his home palace. They had attacked his son, who has powers and was able to defend himself, and they also attacked his queen, who has succumbed. Wunderbar. So we shall continue after one of his paladins retrieved his son and brought him back to the king. Oh, and hi, RB. I don't know if you were in the earlier AMA. I think you probably were listening to all of it. I only got to hear towards the end. So we'll see. I'm gonna miss on the skin drops on Friday, because I will be out at the convention. That's the day it starts, and I might actually go out. I want to see if Teal'c Sol is actually available, so we can go have lunch before I go to the con, so I can say hi. Actually meet him in person, finally. So I won't get a free skin on Friday. Let me backtrack a little. So Matthias brought him the soot-covered boy. He hugged him tightly. What happened to him? He was defending himself from the void, sire, Matthias said, in pride in his voice. He stopped them, Matthias paused. He has power. His room showed that. I know he does, the king replied. They wanted him. They know what he is capable of, and they need me dead so they can use him. That was the reason for the peace meeting. It was all a lie. We can only guess what the rest of the paladins are facing, he said, stating the obvious. More to talk out his grief than to inform his second. His face softened. Matthias, you have to get him out of here. You must go. I will meet you after this is over. I can't leave you, sir, Matthias pleaded, stunned at what he was hearing. You must take him and go, King Agacelis yelled, the rage and hurt inside him boiling over. You must, my friend. He lowered his voice as he tried to compose himself again. They have already taken the others, and my queen. He stopped talking, pain and grief filling his face as he barely managed to hold back the tears. The king looked at his son, rubbing the boy's head, kissing it. He looked back to Matthias, whispering, He is a LOK, the LOK. Matthias, the most powerful ever born. He is the only one that can help us and save our people if I fail here. He stopped and swallowed hard, looking at his friend, then handed Matthias the prince. Go now, the king said softly, looking at the boy. Matthias took him carefully. Removing a special part of the gauntlet from his forearm, the king touched a series of runes on the jumper device and latched it to Matthias' gauntlet, clicking it into place. The small touches to the bracelet opened the labyrinthian door behind them. The king looked at the rippling gate and then to his Matthias, clasping him on the shoulder. You know what to do. That is what the plan was for, in case of something like this. I have to shut it down, and only he can reopen it if I die. Matthias nodded. The king kissed the prince on the head and moved back. You must go. Matthias turned to look at the gate, then stepped reluctantly toward the labyrinthian wormhole. The last of the Spartans had stood guard while the king had talked to his commander. She looked to the corridor as the noises of battle were getting closer, and it was only a matter of minutes before the Razium would be on them. We will talk again, my friend, my brother. I will see you soon, the king said, as an explosion ripped through the outer chambers toward the throne room, rocking them all. Go, he yelled to Matthias as he stepped away toward the sounds of battle. He is our future, he said, pointing to his son. You know what to do, my friend. Now do as I ask of you and go. He rounded the corner and headed to the throne room, the Spartan guard in tow. The king exited out of a secret passage under the dais of the throne and hurried to the higher ground to make his stand on its top. Smoke was in the air, and debris from the explosion had covered the floor. Part of the wall was crumbling where it connected to the large doors leading into the room. Once beautiful wood and gold inlays decorated the area above them. Now the large doors lay black, burnt, and open, the locks destroyed. The king readied to meet whatever came to greet him, standing proudly by his seat of power. The remaining Spartans stood beside him, his shield open, his spear in hand, awaiting his fate with his liege. With a stomping of boots, they stormed into the throne room, the lenses of their masks reflected in the light. The legionnaires of the Razium came through the destroyed doors with weapons drawn. The dust hadn't settled yet, the new disturbance only strengthening the swirling white debris. The steel-shod boots of the black and gray clad forces thumped through the breach, knocking over the tables and tearing the tapestries as they came. They kept their distance, as rifles and other larger laser weapons were aimed at the commander of the Phaeacian armies and leader of the free world. As they neared the throne's dais, they slowed, making a semicircle 15 yards in front of the king. Behind them, the more elite and heavily armored grenadiers came through the breached doors, reinforcing the hold they had on the room. Standards of the lion and chevron emblems of the capital fell to the floor, the Razium stepping on them, dishonoring the ground they walked on as they came. A large figure in dark, jutting armor followed them in as they finished surrounding the king. The figure was covered in spikes, fetishes, skulls, and war totems, trophies from his kills, and a beast pelt cape draped off his large, rounded shoulder armor, flowing to the ground. His large, muscled, green, scarred arms were unarmored, though he was helmeted in a closed, angular-shaped face mask with tusk-like points coming from its sides. He spoke through his helmet, sounding like a mix of machine and deep-seated anger. Well, we were wondering where you were hiding, Your Majesty. He threw his cloak over his armored shoulder and bowed mockingly, his sarcastic accented tone carrying through the room. echoing off the ruined walls and toppled tables. The Zage's lord rose from his bow and looked at the king. You left the armistice so quickly. What? No retort? I am waiting. He stood in a relaxed stance, his hands falling to his sides. It appears my cousin's trap didn't work after all, because here you are. I shall have to amend his mistake. His thumb touched a hidden button to release the blades he had in his gauntlets. They flashed out with a snicket noise. Very comic book snicked bath. Isn't snicked a noise for the Wolverine claws? I was just waiting for you to finish your rant, Zageist. You proved me right once again, the king said. The Zageist looked at him with a quizzical turn of his black armored head. Only this time I won't let you live. There is no treaty to stop me or place you can hide. I will destroy you all for this outrage. Well, all of your kind that are left anyway. How dare you bark at me this way, dog? The evil warrior spat back, raising his hand to point at him. We had defeated your guard and inside your castle walls. There is no way you can win, and the king cut him off, pointing to the paladin beside him and roaring, These are Sparta's walls, and there is no way you can breach them. The paladin acted on cue, thrusting a spear through the nearest legionnaire before any of them could move. Then he and the king darted to the middle of the press in a blur of motion. As the king moved, he opened his hand. The power of the Magnus flowed into him with the currents of magnetic force. Then he closed his hand, and 5 of the Rasium slammed together, their metal packs crushing them in the force of the impact. He threw others away from him with another gesture and launched the troopers in front of him, backward with a flick of the wrist, the metal of their weapons turning against them as they smashed against the walls of the throne room with impressive force. So this kind of hints at when they had Walker on the slab and the other guy said, don't touch them, remember what they're capable of. So I guess they have magnetic power, so they're kind of like Magneto. So paladins can affect metal. That is interesting. I don't know if it's a power they have, or maybe it's, something they have that can control magnetism. So, see. The other soldiers didn't know how to react. They couldn't move their own rifles, the king's Magnus power locking them in place. Before they realized what had happened, he had pulled his sword and was walking among them. He and his Spartan fought through them like a whirlwind of destruction. None could stand against them in their battle fury. They were going berserker mode, apparently. The Zage's warlord joined the fight as well. The Zage's was of the brutal orc of Yurka race, normally a match for any foe, but on this day, and with the power the king wielded, he was unstoppable. The skirmish was quick and brutal, the Zage's warlord falling beneath the king's blade. After the conflict, the king stood defiantly over the fallen orc lord, his sword drawn, ready to deliver the killing stroke to end the creature. But he stopped. Something wasn't right. There was a crawling in the back of his mind. He felt something that pulled his gaze from the hated foe he stood over. The only thing that could have pulled him away from delivering death to this monster had just entered the room. Slowly he looked up at the huge figure standing in the doorway, and his heart sank. Nemsor, he whispered. Nemsor Val, the Iron Knight, Lord of the Zages, and commander of the Rasium, walked into the throne room, his cape flowing behind him. With each step, debris and metal were repelled from his presence, his own Magnus force clearing a path as he walked. The armor he wore resembled that of his dying lieutenant, only slightly lighter in color and more embroidered with silver arcanium and gold lining. The runes and jewels that were etched into the battle plate glowed faintly as he walked. The armor's colors seemed to eat the light of the room as he strode to the middle of it. New legionnaires filed in behind him, and the few already in the room that had not been killed immediately snapped to attention, holding their rifles in front of them, making an opening directly to the dais on which the king stood. Nemzor took in the scene through his helmeted faceplate. It opened with a hiss to reveal a visage that was riveted from steel pieces into the mockery of a stone face, a patchwork of contoured metal that oozed evil. The king was spent from using so much of his power, and Nemzor knew it. Nemzor studied him with cruel eyes, hatred burning from them. He had waited for this moment for a long time, and he was going to savor it. The king seemed unprepared, and that is when Nemzor struck. Matthias woke with a start, gasping for air. He was panting and covered in sweat. The chill of his dream, his past, still clung to him like the thick fog that pulled around the fortress city of Anstone in the early morning. He sat for a moment, then reached for a towel that was lying on his nightstand and wiped his face. He rolled off the sweat-soaked sheets of his bed and walked to the window, undoing the latch and opening it. The cold air hit him, and he gulped it in as he looked out at the darkness. It was early morning, and the sun hadn't crested yet. The dreams have been like that lately, he thought as he tried to gather his wits. He did not know why he was thinking about the past. Before 2 weeks ago, he had not had any dreams like this. Something was coming. It had to be, and that is what they had to move quickly. But the dreams, they haunted him. He had not shaken this one yet. It was too vivid, and he always woke at the same part. The worst things that he knew what came next. Nemzor killed the king with his own sword. Matthias had never forgotten the final confrontation between them. He had tried to put it out of his mind. It had been 7 years ago, but he remembered it as if it were yesterday. The king had fought hard, but finally fell to both knees, his power spent. The anger he had was gone, flowing out of the wound he had just received. Nemzor Val stepped slowly toward him, savoring the moment of his triumph. Nemzor raised his hand and opened it. The king gasped, breathing in quick, ragged breaths. He grunted, wincing as his own sword was magically pulled out of him, flying to Nemzor's hand. The king spat a glob of blood, looking up at his foe. "I knew it would be you. I always knew," he said, coughing. "Why?" There was a pause and complete silence. Matthias remembered as if the air itself knew what this moment was. Nemzor walked around the king to stand behind him. He bent close to his ear. "Where is he?" Nemzor whispered, with a deep, metallic grind. "He is gone," the king chuckled, then coughed and slumped slightly, blood dripping from his lips and spattering as it hit his armor. In a bloody whisper, he asked, "Why?" Teary-eyed, he looked to the sky before lowering his head. Nemzor stood and cocked his helmeted head as he stepped around to face the king. "You, of all people, dare ask me why? I am the master of all I want, and now of all you hold dear. I will never go back to living the life I had before. I will never go back to living that lie, your lie." "You think you can enslave me? You think you can enslave my Zajust and Razium and keep them as you have all the others? You feel that these lies keep your people safe. These lies you tell, they will show themselves. I will ask one more time only. Where is he? Where is Lincoln? He yelled. The tone was harsh and accusatory, that hate in his voice making it all the more evil. You will never get him now, the king said, pausing as he held up his broken wrist gauntlet. It is closed to you. The king smiled, closing his eyes and whispering a prayer, knowing his life had come to an end. When I find him, I will reopen it. And if you won't tell me, then you can go to hell. Nemzor yelled as he moved behind King Agesilaus, spinning the blade in his hand and bringing it down on the man's shoulders. Matthias had not left the castle. He had been under the dais by the secret passage. He listened from the shadows, hearing it all. He remembered the sound of the king's helmet falling to the stairs, the crown breaking from it. He remembered how it all felt, the warmth of the boy in his hands, the sounds of battle in the background, the smell of gunfire, and above all, his heart breaking. He heard the ting of the metal as the crown fell. It seemed as if time itself had slowed as the crown bounced down the stairs that led to the throne. From one stair to the next it bounced, as the realization of his king, brother, and friend being killed hit him. The crown hit the final step and spun around and round. It seemed to go on forever, before slowly coming to a stop on the tiled floor, the ting of metal resounding in its finality. Matthias blinked, coming out of his thoughts. He knew he couldn't save him. A single large tear rolled down his neck and into his mustache. He remembered hearing other Razium moving closer, then touching the band the king had attached to his wrist. The labyrinthine opened. Matthias and the prince slipped into the shadows of the newly created door. Then he and the boy were gone. Matthias snapped from his thoughts with a start as he heard a commotion outside his door. Then a knock. Commander, we heard something. Is everything all right? The guard outside asked. Yes, Matthias croaked as he walked over to the door. Yes, he said again, finding his voice. I'm fine. Just stubbed my toe. I'm fine, thank you. Are you sure, sir? The guard asked again. Yes, thank you. You may carry on. It's not a big deal, it just hurts, he said with a fake chuckle. Yes, sir, the void replied. Matthias listened to the guard walk away from the door. He walked back to the window and looked out at the soldiers of the night watch. What is this, Game of Thrones? They were changing their shifts in the courtyard below. The cool air hit him, and he closed his eyes, breathing deeply as he tried to steady himself, his breath misting in the morning air. It was just too much to think about. He had tried to put that past behind him, but it seemed to have found him again. It is going to be a long day, he thought, and then he remembered it was his birthday. Nice to awake with a nightmare on your birthday. So I think when they captured Walker, the other paladin, I'm guessing that was probably a paladin that was left at the peace treaty place. And that rune at the ice well was activated. That might be when Matthias started having his dreams. Like they're all interconnected. The force is within them all. Chapter 3, Breakout, Icewell Prison. I think this chapter should be called Prison Break. And Wentworth Miller should be cast as Walker. The Hold Master had made it back to his work chamber, panting and breathing hard. He lowered his hood as he entered the dim room. The white of the wispy hair was stark contrast to the old and sweaty purple skin he wore. Immediately he closed the door, then paused, panicking as if he had lost something. Reopening the door, he looked back and forth in the gloom. He watched with relief as his raven flew down the hall and into the room, landing on its perch. Then he shut and bolted the door. He hurriedly walked to his table, upon which sat a view screen and control keyboard. The raven skipped over to it, studying the screen. The master went to the large oak bookshelf and to the wall, and was about to take a book. He stopped himself and went back to the table, sitting down and looking at the screen. He let out a sigh and ran his finger across the bottom, indicating it, and waited. Oh. Thank you for that follow, Shell Smiley. Appreciate it. Staring into the vid screen, he picked up his raven and started petting it nervously. The bird cooed as it was being pet, returning its head to watch its master, the object focusing on him with a click. The screen came to life, the colors lighting the dim room in a bluish hue, and a strange voice asked, "Yes?" "My lord, the prisoner we have captured has been awoken. He is a Spartan, as we thought, and he will escape. It is imminent. The runes," the man said quickly, nervously, gulping as he let the words out, unsure of what to do. Oh, no worries about it. Usually I blame Twitch. It does the weird unfollows randomly, so it's fine. I'm just happy you're here. You have every right to be nervous, my friend, and you did good to tell me. But calm yourself, the man on the screen replied. "So it started then," he said aloud to himself. "My lord," asked the old Razium. You know what I do? I know exactly who my first follow is, and he is actually in chat. Was it Dexy? Are you still here? I know, he's gone for a bit, but when that channel no longer shows up on my list of channels, that's when I'll know that that Twitch has, you know, unfollowed like my oldest follow. So at least I'm keeping track of it that way. No worries, take your phone call. My work actually sent a phone call. I was trying to do my stream, so it's very inconvenient time. It's like, sorry, I can't answer you. I'm doing a stream. Yes, phone call interruptions. It is sooner than I wanted, but I hear the best laid plans to go awry, the face on the screen said, wiggling his pointer finger in the air as if scolding a child. "Do be careful, Holdmaster. Make sure the emissary is aware and contact me when you have been secured." "I should have found him long ago," he signed off. The old Razium Holdmaster slumped into his chair. What did that mean, he thought. The raven cooed and looked at him sideways. "Yes, I know," he told the bird. "We need to go." He stood and stared to look for things to take with him. He jumped as a knock at the door startled him. He clutched his chest, breathing hard. "Yes, what is it?" the old man asked, trying to keep the breaks out of his voice. "My lord, the emissary is here to see you," was the reply. The Holdmaster looked at the raven. "Don't worry, my friend. We will be leaving soon," he whispered to it as he walked to the door. So this biomechanical raven that the Holdmaster has sounds really cute, and it makes me think of Bubo, which was the mechanical owl that Athena had in Clash of the Titans, if you remember the old Harryhausen movie. And I want one now. Once every 12 weeks, yeah. At least it's not that often. No, I was trying to finish a project right before I started stream, and I sent a response. I'm crossing my fingers that no one decides to reply to that in the middle of me getting ready for stream. And of course, that's when you can't send an instant message, you can't send an email. You have to call me and ask me a question, even though my instant messenger clearly says red, do not disturb, I'm out to lunch, but they still have to call and see if, do you really mean don't disturb, or can I disturb you? Yeah, it's annoying. The man that had talked to the Holdmaster sat in his dark chamber. He was sitting in front of a 3D view screen on his own. It had changed from the old master to show a hologram of Icewell. I'll run the battle after this paragraph. A hologram of Icewell floating above the dusk inlaid screen, slowly turning to give a blue 3D picture of the entire mountain fortress. He looked at the fortress floating in front of him, his features hidden under his cloak, light-colored hood, and darkness of the room. He lowered his hood, his features still hidden by the darkness, and touched a control key on the armrest of his chair. Icewell turned into a hologram of the masked metal face of Nemsor Val. You may start your attack, Warlord Val. The helmeted face nodded back to him. Very good, was the deep reply. The 3D image clicked off, leaving the man in the dark. It's like, they've already killed everybody. Who else are they attacking? I don't know. But, you know, when the baddies decide we're gonna do something, we're gonna really do something. Alright, let's run our battle. Let's see how scaled up I got. And we'll see if we have people that have come to the rescue. Not too many bots, and thank you, Shell, for placing again. Alright. And RB and Charwace, thank you so much for placing. Alright, so it looks like the last few losses have helped to bring down the enemies. So, crossing fingers, we should make it on this one. So, good luck. Yay, we has one. Alright, let me set the next battle. And I'll do snacky time because I've been craving things for a little bit, but I was waiting for stream time to take a little snacky. Yes, and I'm not doing random because I don't want bots to get rewards right now. I don't have any quests right now, no. Alright, we're gonna do the big boss at the end of this one. I'm probably gonna get bots again. Alright. Oh, here we go. Where's my bone artillery? Which does not seem to want to target this dude. But he's ranged. It should get him. Alrighty. Alright, let me catch up on chat. And of course, I know Danny just started streaming Scruffy, so it's a shame he can't see Tommy Rice in the picture, so he can see how buff and swole he should be aiming to get at the gym. It's not, you know what, it's not such a big deal most of the time because I usually have like my phone on Do Not Disturb, but because right now I'm streaming on my lunch hour while I'm working, I have my work laptop, so the calls, you know, the VoIP calls come through the laptop. Can't really tell someone, you know, like, just give me 1 hour. but I had the same situation on Thanksgiving where I tried to do a daytime stream, which I rarely do, because I knew of all days, Thanksgiving, it's going to be a full house. And if I asked, like, let me just have a few hours where it's, just quiet enough, I'm like, nope. So most of the stream was me trying to, like, mute and stop them from, like, really interrupting as much as I could. Oh, the bot soup. Yeah, good. That's good. However they do it. I don't know. I mean, are those like just random annoying bots? I didn't get to hear most of the AMA. So I'll just get the gist from RB next time I'm in his stream, probably later tonight. No sleep. Oh, that's bad. I'm so sorry. Get some rest, please. Yes, thank you for divided attention, Scruffy. Dark chocolate Oreos. Ooh, Oreos. I hear good. Yeah, after I do international trips, that's like me sleeping all day. Usually me after my Saturday night stream, because I'll do like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., which is like evil hours if you're East Coast. But it's, so sorry, RB, I know you can't catch me during those hours. But it's perfect time because Europe is just waking up, so I got them at the right time. Yeah, and I saw that some people are saying the people who have alts that are not really bots, they should be lifted from the ban jail, but I don't think that was the dev stream was not the place to address it. They should have, addressed it in the proper channels on Discord. Yeah, Versus won't be back. That's fine. So you have your chocolate Oreos. I have my Ghirardelli chocolate caramel squares, but I was hungry and I was munching on them earlier. So that's a no. Now for right now, I will try not to choke right now. So here's the Chex Mix. We're gonna crunch away for Scruffy for a little bit. He will never get that soul. Well, I mean, he can try. You never know. It's all relative to his body size. I mean, this guy is huge. This guy. Okay. Yes. This guy is huge over here. So he's already big, and to get bigger, he just looks ginormous. But because Danny is so thin and slim, any muscle he puts on to bulk will make him look pretty ripped. At least I think so. Oh my god. Scruffy. Yes. Let's see what we can do to not have Alexis die on screen. So more of the Chex Mix squares. If you don't want to hear the crunch, I'm going to do this for Scruffy. If you don't want to hear the crunch, you can mute me. I don't know how much of that you heard. I made the microphone closer. You can actually see it's the microphone. Sort of. And little Cheez-It triangles. And be methodical about it. Sorry, I'm just not a open mouth chewer. So I find it hard to like openly chew so you can hear it. And then the little swirly breadsticks. You probably hear more bag ASMR than me. Oh, and last but not least, the little square pretzels. Yes, cheese triangles are the best. Always. Alright, let me chase that with some mango. Hey! I hit something wrong. You're welcome, Scruffy. Why is it not working? Oh, because my microphone is hitting on a keyboard. I'm done crunching, so you don't have to worry. No, you just missed the crunch. Or did you hear it? Alright, now we're gonna do the mango. Lihing moi. Mango. There's no crunchy all this, it's all chewy. I said at first I wasn't a fan, because I don't know, but I've been finding some thick pieces, because we like it thick, and they taste a little better. Yes, we're done with the crunchy. I don't mean to tee them up that easily, Scruffy. Things just pop into my head and I say them and they happen to sound inappropriate, but appropriate for the situation. Is music sounding? I can't hear it, but I think it's sounding. No, it's kind of spinning around. It's not really my thing to do ASMR. I'm only doing it at Scruffy's request because he crunches on his channel. He has fortune cookies that he crunches, and you know, depending on whether you like it or not, you know, the request will be crunch or no crunch. ASMR hair brushing. Well, you can't brush this Medusa hair. Sorry. I fixed it and I set it yesterday until the next time I wash it. So there's no sound coming out of here except my screams as you try and put a comb through them. Oh, beard brushing. There's a thought. And hi, Maskew. How are you doing? I'm not going to put you to sleep, Maskew. I'm just having a quick interim snack before I continue. I was going to try this, but I think it's probably too messy. I do have leftovers from last night's dinner. I went with Underdog Andrew before I came on Scruffy's. I went to the restaurant across the street, which is the Yard House, and I got some chicken tenders. Don't fall on the laptop, please. Chicken tenders and sweet potato fries, but I don't have a microwave, so I MacGyvered a microwave setting. I boiled some water in the coffee maker, and I've had this on top of the boiling water to warm it up to room temperature again. So I have just ranch dip and like a Dijon mustard aioli. So I will be dipping that. And later today, as soon as I'm done working, I'm gonna go pick up some more dinner for us. We're gonna do sushi, and then I'm gonna head over to Andrew's and we're gonna do some Phasmo. So that should be fun. I don't think I've played Phasmo with him before, but it's the only game besides Minecraft that we share So he suggested I'll just bring my laptop over to this place. We're not going to be streaming it though. I think that would be trying too much, unless he wants to stream it on his. We'll see how he feels about it. But that should be fun. So we'll have a nice play date later today. Yes, sweet potato. Sweet potato is good. I had to actually ask them to switch it out because they were gonna do like regular house fries. I'm like, no, give me sweet potato. Choke him out? What? I'm not gonna choke him out. What are you saying? No microwave, no hot tub. Yeah, it's a crappy establishment. I like the housekeeper, but aside from that, it has been a 1-star review. Hello, Uber. Uber, we have a baby. Am I pregnant? We have a baby? What are we gonna call the baby? Thank you for that 9-month sub. Oh my goodness. I feel like I've known you for so long and we finally have a child. We've been trying and trying and we finally have a baby. Thank you, baby. Alexima. Oh, I love that. I love the name of that baby. Yes, I enjoyed it thoroughly. Thank you for that. I'm sorry, I can't get my pretzel rocks to behave, so it'll just be me talking and hopefully not putting Masquerader to sleep for the next, I want to say 8 minutes. Let's do 10 minutes. All right, so back to the book for another 10 minutes before I have to go. Oh, actually. Slightly ASMR for the Pepsi I had from like my sad dinner on Saturday. And since I'm currently a working woman, I'm gonna need you to be a stay-at-home dad and take care of Alexima for us, Uber. Because I'm out busy doing the money making. Yeah, I just kept it in the fridge and it did okay. I'm not a fan of bubbles, believe it or not. I prefer flat soda, so we usually keep our soda out of the fridge. Let's see. Okay, so they're about to do an attack. The front line, border of Essex, northeastern province and Meridian, middle province, continent of Ultima Thule, stalemate of the Rasium and Federation forces. The green rolling hills of Essex were cold and wet. The mid-morning air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and dew-covered grass. The fog had just lifted, but still lingered around the muddy posts and tripwires that ran the length of the trench work on the battle line. The trench itself was an amazing achievement. It stretched 5 miles from the deep, thick woods of Heston to the base of the small blue mountains of the Vargers. It was a perfect spot to hold an offensive, as both flanks were covered by the topography of the area. The Federation Army had used this to their advantage. The trench system they had created was made of elaborate tripwires, barbs, mines, and assortments of weapons that lined its length. And so far, the Rasium had not been able to make it across the no man's land to the Federation line. So it sounds like World War I trench warfare. That's what they got going. It had been a battle of attrition for the last few weeks, but not much more. Early in the engagement, the Rasium had been throwing men and older war gears at it with little effect, but recently they had stopped for some unknown reason. We know that reason. They attacked. The Federation had proved stout in its defense. Luckily, the Rasium had not attacked with any of their larger warships. probably because they did not have many left to waste. If they didn't bring those crafts in, the Federation troops could hold. The soldiers of the Federation were dressed in their fatigues, high-laced combat boots, light armor, and rounded M1 helmets. Most were in the trenches, holding their rifles and looking across the way for any sign of action. Every few minutes, a shot would spark a mini firefight along the line that would die down after a few moments. It wasn't raining, but it was a gray day and wet. It's supposed to be wet today. Tomorrow might rain. So I'm not looking forward to that while I'm here. A few soldiers were helping a large white-nosed Clydesdale out of the muck as its team pulled a massive howitzer cannon through the mud. It was the last and largest of the battery that had been set on the hill. The huge 155mm gun had gotten stuck in the mud, and they needed it moved and working for air support, as the last Rasium attack had left them open. The large guns had taken out the smaller aircraft, but they had taken heavy damage in return, and if the Rasium had pulled their troops back, there was a reason for it. Something big was coming. The men needed to get the anti-air gun set before the Rasium came at them again. The sergeant in charge, a broad man with a large scar down his face and a partly used and wet cigar in his mouth, watched as the soldiers set the huge machine. Get the trajectory on that gun, men. It won't shoot itself, you know? The men bellowed, laughing and looking down the line as he pulled out the unlit cigar, spitting. As he looked down the line, he spotted two soldiers who were intent on a particular place in the enemy line across from them. They sat staring at the spot, one holding magnifiers. Neither had talked for the last few minutes when finally one broke the silence. I haven't seen him for 20 minutes. When finally, do you think they caught him? No, not Nate. He's too slippery for the likes of them, the other replied. I hope, the first whispered, a worried look on his face. He looked at the other and then went back to waiting, seeing the sergeant staring at them. Gunfire from the other side broke the quiet of the morning. A black-coated Rasium grabbed for the dark-skinned Federation shoulder as he ran. The soldier dodged the Rasium, then hurled over an ammo crate and ran. He didn't stop, running the length of the makeshift wooden wall, the trench and barbed wire not doing any good keeping the Rasium from chasing him. Luckily for him, his speed did. They were chasing him through the maze of the trench network, but so far hadn't been able to catch the young man. He kicked a Rasium out of the way and jumped onto a box of supplies as a shot went over his head. Then he vaulted to another box, one of the soldiers in black almost falling out, but catching himself as he landed on the trench's edge. He was at the edge of their lines and looked up as he caught his balance. Before him stretched open muddy ground between the trenches, no man's land. He heard voices behind him. He startled, and then he ran. Nate didn't stop to look. He just ran. So we had spies crossing the trench line. They have stopped firing, sir, one of the two soldiers said, looking at the Rasium line. And? Yelled the sergeant as he started toward them. He bit into the wet cigar, then pulled it out of his mouth. He looked disgusted as he stared at the limp tobacco. Well, if you have it in your mouth, of course it's going to be... Never mind. He frowned at it as if he were mad. Tossing it to the ground, he stomped over to the men. The two soldiers looked at him. The soldier that had spoken was holding magnifiers. What do you see? The sergeant asked gruffly as he picked his teeth of the extra tobacco. Ah, the soldier chuckled. Well, it's little Nate, sir, was the man's reply. There, he said, pointing. The sergeant followed his finger toward the line. From across the expanse of no man's land, a skinny boy that looked barely 18 and young for that age was running. He was in the open and running as fast as he could toward the line of the Federation. The sergeant bellowed, Open the door for him. Give him some cover. One of the soldiers grabbed his helmet as he scrambled to the lock to open a hole in the line so the boy could pass. As down the line, Federation soldiers opened fire at the sergeant's order. Nate ran as fast as he could. He was scared out of his mind and expected to see lines of tracer fire zipping past his head or hear the whine of Rasium laser weapons shooting at him. But there was no sound except the beating of his heart and his boots hitting the mud. He ran through the wet dirt, ducking the cover fire coming from the Federation's side and sliding into the open space in the lines. One of his comrades quickly slamming the gate and setting the barbed wire back in place. The sergeant walked over and stared down at him. "Catch your breath, son," he said and laughed. "Dang, boy, you're fast. What are you doing over there, Nate?" Nate smiled a big toothy grin as he tried to catch his breath. "We were bored." He got out between pants. "I just wanted to know what they were doing." "Well?" asked the sergeant. "They're just there, sir. It doesn't make sense," Nate said in a gasp, trying to suck in air from his run. "They're just waiting, sir." The sergeant looked puzzled, and he looked back to the line as Nate continued. "Every few minutes, someone will shoot at a different location on the line, but not seriously. It is like they're just sitting there on purpose to hold us here. I tried to get close, but was spotted before I could get to the command tent." He finished, still trying to catch his breath. "Before they saw me, I heard them say something about a boy, an emissary. Didn't know what it meant. But, sir, there wasn't many of them that I could see, only older gears guarding the area." "Sergeant," the soldier looking through the magnifiers yelled. A noise like the roar of a lion magnified 10,000 times rang out overhead. "Oh, crap. Remember the enemy of my enemy is my friend? Where the enemy of that enemy is now my friend. So, the Dragon Arcane Wars. The dragons have not gone away, I'm guessing." As soon as he spoke, other soldiers were diving for cover and grabbing their ears. Only the sergeant stood, his hands shielding his eyes as he looked up. The wind whipped around them as the sky darkened. There was a huge object above them, but he could still see the sky. At least it looked like the sky, but it rippled slightly. A huge shadow crossed over them. The soldiers in the trenches looked around and above them, weapons at the ready, but saw nothing. However, something was there, and the noise it made was almost unbearable. A huge something was there, somewhere. The sky didn't look right, and the wind whipped uncontrollably. Then it passed and was gone. Nothing was around them, and everything had gone back to normal. The sergeant yelled, "Get me command." "Yes, I understand. I will deliver the message. Yes, thank you." The clerk put down the phone communicator and stood. His superior, who had listened in on the conversation, walked over to him. He lowered his small monocle and asked, "What was that about?" The clerk looked annoyed. "Well, sir, a sergeant on the front lines of Essex seems to think that we have been breached by a Rasium warship or device of some kind. After scans, we show nothing. Is it war imagination, sir? Shall I send someone?" "They do already have a Spartan in command, sir." "Yes, they do," the officer said. "Is that the sergeant's report of what happened?" "Yes, sir," the clerk replied and handed him the paper describing what the sergeant had claimed to see. The officer looked at it. "Yes, you're right. Those boys just want something to do," he said, smiling at the clerk. "I'll take care of it, thank you." The clerk nodded and went back to work. The officer walked over to his office, looking down at the paper. He paused before entering, looking up and down the hall, then went inside. He closed his door and picked up his phone communicator to make a call. Violin music was playing in the background as a butler walked to a man in beige and cream robes, handing him an ornate phone receiver. The man glanced at it, almost annoyed, then picked it up. Yes, the man asked into the line. It has started, sir, the officer said. After hanging up the phone, the officer looked around his office anxiously. The man in the robes heard the click of the receiver and handed the phone back to his butler. Anything else, sir? The butler asked. No, thank you. You know what to do. Navis replied. Turning away from his butler, he looked out his huge window, viewing the sprawling city below his fortress as he held his hot morning coffee. You know, for generals and people in charge of war, they don't seem very concerned with the fact that the poor men in the front lines are about to get roasted by dragons. At least that's my prediction. Okay, so we're going to leave off on chapter 3. I'm going to come back tomorrow to continue with one more chapter. I know, pawns, what can you do? So tomorrow will be my last reading stream while I'm here, because Friday the con starts. I will try to have lunch with another friend tomorrow evening. Shaman Steve Scruffy, if you know him from Twitch Sings. I try to see him every time I'm here in LA, and maybe TLX Soul, if I can have lunch with him on Friday before I go to the con. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you're interested, you can check out the LOK. The reason I'm reading the book is because I'm gonna see the author, Tommy Rice, at the convention. I'm in Los Angeles at LA Comic Con. So I want him to sign my book in person. Hold on. From... Yes, so Shaman _ Steve. He was on Twitch Sings as well. He's from my other community. So now that I know he's here, he hangs out with Gloop Dog all the time and is on his streams as well. So try to see him, Teal. And then we'll see who else I run into at the convention. Yeah, see, Shaman's cool. He's a cool dude. All right, let's get ready to raid the... Oh, hold on. Hold the phone. Let's see if I can raid someone else, because I don't want to duplicate my raids. Let's see if someone else is on right now. Yes. I will do this instead, and you'll enjoy it. All right. New person to raid that I don't get to raid very often. All right, here's the emotes. If you don't have my emotes, that's the raid message. If you do have my emotes, you can grab my turtle and my pineapple and my tiki raider. Oh, and perfect. We're actually in time to do the battle before I go. So let me do that right now. And let's see if we can get this boss knocked out. If not, I'll do one more battle before I close shop for the day. Love that Wilhelm scream. I think we got it. Crossing fingers. Yes, we did. Yay, I get to finish on a positive note. All right, let's risk it on random. Yay, and people I know are real got it. Congratulations. Boss defeated. Yay, we moved on to the next Streamlandia one. All right. Okay. All right, so let me start. Yes, GG's indeed. All right, let me start the raid to Miss Rainbow Paint. She is currently doing Malice. She is an awesome and beautiful and talented lady. She does art. She does a lot of gasm emotes. That is her specialty. She did a drawing in person of me as a gasm emote when I met her last year at a streamer camp. So I'm waiting to get my gasm emote from her sometime soon. All right, there we go. Raid starting. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for keeping me company. Bye.